China is gearing up for its two sessions meetings next week, and this will take place at the Great Hall of the People in the heart of Beijing. Every year, typically in March, thousands of delegates travel from across the country to gather here for what's China's biggest political meetings of the year. But what exactly are the two sessions, also known as Lianghui? Well, they refer to the annual meetings of two key Chinese bodies. China's top political advisory body, the CPPCC, which begins its session first on March 4th, and China's top legislature, the NPC, which convenes a day later. Well, the meetings happen concurrently for a period, hence the name two sessions, but they are mostly separate affairs. Now, the current makeup of the CPPCC has more than 2,000 members, and together they're supposed to represent 34 sectors of society. More than a third of them are from the ruling Communist Party of China. And others include representatives from Taiwan, Hong Kong, and Macau, different ethnic minorities and political parties, as well as prominent individuals. Now, at times, this has included celebrities, with the likes of movie star Jackie Chan and basketballer Yao Ming in the mix. Now, the CPPCC's function is to give advice and recommendations to other state institutions on a whole range of issues, even outside of the two sessions period. But during the meetings, proposals have ranged from the economy to health. Typically, there will be thousands of these, with some of them going viral online. Or recently, it made headlines for suggesting compulsory romance lessons. But the CPPCC doesn't make any laws. That authority belongs to the National People's Congress, China's top legislature. With almost 3,000 lawmakers, it is the largest parliamentary body in the world, even more than the equivalent of such entities in the US and UK combined. Delegates are elected from around China, with some chosen based on professional credentials. They hold office for 5 years and meet annually here. Candidates must first be nominated by the Communist Party before they are voted on by local representatives. This process reflects China's own approach to democracy, which local state media describes as offering electoral choice within a framework of oversight. Now, over the next week or two, they gather in smaller groups at the Great Hall and other parts of Beijing. And based on province or interest groups from the economy to education, delegates will discuss the government work report and other policy objectives. Now, at the end of the meetings, the NPC votes on the government work report, proposals, legislation, and personnel appointments, although this is largely ceremonial, as the agenda has been set months in advance. While the votes are typically not unanimous, there have been fewer dissenting votes in recent years. So, for example, in 2018, delegates voted to change the constitution, which included the removal of presidential term limits. Over 2,900 voted in favor, 2 against, and 3 abstained. In 2023, President Xi was awarded an unprecedented 5-year term. But even though the two sessions is a mostly predictable yearly affair, one should not count out any surprises. The highly choreographed meetings are worth closely watching for the strongest signals of China's plans in the coming year. Among other things, Chinese Premier Li Qiang will deliver his government work report on the opening day of the annual parliamentary session of the NPC. Now, he is expected to outline China's policy priorities and unveil targets for growth, inflation, spending, and jobs. The two sessions will also provide insights into China's thinking on global issues, from trade wars to its tech rivalry with the US and the wars in Ukraine and the Middle East. So for more on what to watch out for at the meeting, we are joined by Dr. Chen Gang. He's Deputy Director and Senior Research Fellow of the East Asian Institute and National University of Singapore, as well as our correspondent, Olivia Xiong, in Beijing. We'll welcome you both. First question to you, Dr. Chen. Now, the NPC and the CPPCC, they are key political institutions in China, as we've talked about. How has their function evolved alongside China's economic and political development?
Yeah, I do think that these two very important political organizations, their functions have been evolving over the years, especially along with China's economic and technological and political development. So in the very beginning, we can see that both organizations were very political. That included all the major political figures, officials from different provinces and different sectors. over the years, especially when China entered the reform and opening period, we can see that more professionals, especially those prominent figures with no party affiliation, joined the NPC and the CPPCC. And also, I think both organizations have been playing more and more important role in China's policy making, policy debating, as well as the appointment of major officials.
Olivia, picking up on what Dr. Chen said about these key personalities to look out for, who are some of them? I don't mean like Jackie Chan or Yao Ming, but who should we be really keeping our eyes on?
I'll tell you, it really is a test of journalists' facial recognition powers, so to speak, areas we look out for key people to speak to. Not everyone is as tall and towering as Yao Ming, but on a more serious note, the makeup of the NPC and CPPCC really reflects the evolving priorities of China's leadership and our key economic signals. The current makeup was decided on in 2023, following a 5-year leadership reshuffle. If we were to just look at this graphic, I want to talk about first who was not on the list. Notably, several high-profile Chinese internet firm bosses. JD.com's founder Richard Liu had resigned as a member of the CPPCC in 2019 amid allegations of sexual misconduct. The likes then also of Tencent's Pony Ma, who was an NPC delegate for a decade, and Baidu CEO Robin Li, who was a CPPCC member, also notably not on the list. The exclusion came amid a regulatory crackdown on tech firms that we had seen begin in 2020. Observers also noting that Alibaba founder Jack Ma was not on this list, although they have been back in the limelight lately. But it's not to say that tech firms have been completely, forgotten. There are still lower representation from Alibaba and JD.com in these two political bodies. But now look at who's on the list. Inclusions of representatives from new industries that China is keen to push. Electric vehicle makers like He Xiaopeng of XPeng, Xiaomi's Lei Jun, his electronic company, moving to start producing EVs as well, or the likes of AI chip designer Chen Tianshi from Cambricon Technologies, as the tech war between China and the US continues to intensify, and China continuing to talk about self-sufficiency on the technology front.
So who's not on the list is as important as who is on the list. So Dr. Chen, tell us more about this selection process, and what do you notice? I mean, have there been significant changes?
Yeah, I do think there are significant changes in terms of selecting NPC and CPPCC delegates. Over the years, I think China increasingly pay more attention to the professionalism of the delegates. And they also pay more attention to the representation of the delegates that can represent different sectors, different regions, different political backgrounds. And I like to follow what Olivia just now mentioned. I think even for tech people, there are differences between the old tech people like Jack Ma and the new tech people like those who are involved in the electric vehicle production. So I think for this term of NPC and CPPCC, we are seeing more delegates from the EV sector, for example, and also for some other major tech sectors identified as new productive forces that has been emphasized by Xi Jinping himself. And also we can see that China increasingly paying attention to the overseas Chinese community as well as the international affairs. So I think probably in the future we are going to see more representatives from that field as well.
Dr. Chen, I just want to flip it around. What then is the significance for these people, individuals who are selected to be part of the NPC or CPPCC?
Yeah, I think so. I think there are several levels of selection. So what we are seeing is national level delegates. I think they have to go through very strict screening, and also I think they have to be outstanding in terms of their professionalism. The achievements have been made, especially to China's modernization and economic development. But also we can also see that the politics is also very important these days, because the political loyalty has also become a very important criteria, especially in Xi Jinping's time. So if we look at the delegates, their political faith, we can see that all of them have to be loyal to the leadership of the Communist Party, and also they have to support the party's policies, including the unification of the country, and also the party's modernization plan, and some other social issues. So I think both are very important, professionalism as well as loyalty. And in terms of influence, I think not necessarily all the delegates are well known to Chinese people, to the world. Many actually are people who have contributed to the modernization without much attention from the outside world. So I think probably those delegates are the ones that need more attention, especially from the observers outside China.
And can you give us some examples of some of how these representatives have shaped some of the major policies?
First of all, I think China's policymaking is a very complicated process. We do think that the Communist Party is dominating the whole process, but in reality, I think since the policy making is so complicated, they have to listen to the different voices from different sectors, different regions, and also people with different backgrounds. So in this process, I do think that the delegates to the CPPCC and MPC play a very important role, especially during the Lianghui period. So there will be a lot of closed-door discussions, debates, and sometimes even confrontations, sometimes different views. So we do see that this kind of policy debating, discussion play an more and more important role in China's policy making, as these days the development of China has become a very, very complicated and comprehensive process.
Dr. Chen, though, if we were to look forward, we know that the challenges that China is facing are constantly evolving and at a very fast pace. How do you foresee the makeup of these political bodies changing down the road? For example, we were talking about the tech sector. Some of the internet firm bosses who had been keeping a low profile amid the regulatory crackdown are now back in the spotlight, holding that high-profile symposium with the Chinese president. So how do you see this changing down the road?
Yes, of course, I think there are sometimes back and forth, this kind of issue facing the functions of the two organizations. But increasingly, I think the two organizations are playing more and more important role in China's policy making and the lawmaking, because these days, I think China's development and modernization and even a foreign policy are the issues that many Chinese people have their own opinions. So I do think that through these two channels, and this probably would be the only channel once a year that can help the ruling Communist Party hear the different voices, different opinions from different sectors, different industries, and different regions. So increasingly, I think these two platforms are becoming more and more important for the Communist Party, especially I think for a country that is ruled by one party. I think they have to make sure that different interests, different opinions are being taken care of by the party. Otherwise, they may finally lose this kind of ruling status.
And Olivia, I know you've covered a number of these meetings before. How do they basically set the tone and the agenda for the year ahead?
Otelli, the two sessions are the most important political meetings that China has every year. And today we heard from Chinese state media saying that the NPC Standing Committee held its plenary session, and on the agenda, one of the most important tasks it had was to prepare for this upcoming gathering of lawmakers, including setting the agenda and who the attendees would be. Also, we will be looking out for the government work report that will be delivered by the Chinese Premier, which lays out the tasks and goals for China in the year ahead. Very key clues, especially to the outside world, on where the world's second largest economy is headed. And it's going to be closely watched this year, definitely amid the challenges that China is facing at home with its economy, also with the second Trump administration and this renewed trade war, and amid ongoing geopolitical tensions and conflicts. Interesting to note also the shifting dynamics that we have been talking about. How is tech going to factor into this year's meetings, with internet firm bosses once again in the spotlight and greater emphasis on supporting the private sector in helping China to address some of its economic challenges. So much to look out for, I'll tell you.
Indeed. Well, thanks so very much, Olivia Xiong, speaking to us in Beijing, as well as a big thank you to Dr. Chen Gang from the East Asian Institute at the National University of Singapore. Well, tomorrow, do join us as we discuss how these political meetings have evolved over the years, including how the closely watched government work report is put together.